Okay, listen up. You modern motorcyclists are a bunch of candy-ass soy boy beta males. Look, I'm just being real, okay? You think your exhaust sounds brutal on cold start? You know what's really brutal? A cryptic 7-step startup procedure that could end up with a Kickstarter snapping your ankle in half, because that's how riders used to have to start their bikes back in the day, back when men were men. None of this blue-haired unisex bathroom crap. Today, you just tap the starter, twist the throttle, and ride off like the world owes you something. We get 6,000-mile service intervals, and some of you will still complain that it's too frequent. You can redline your motorcycle when it's 110 degrees outside without any worry in the world, yet some people will bemoan, well, could use a little more torque at 4,000 RPMs. You can head out for a couple 100 miles of riding and expect that your bike is going to start, run, and stop and corner without any drama whatsoever. But 80 years ago, riding a motorcycle meant earning every single mile with physical suffering and daily mechanical sacrifices. So today, we're going to talk about the top 7 features on modern bikes that we all take for granted. The unseen, unconsidered engineering miracles that makes bikes today way more civilized, consistent, and enjoyable to ride. Because without these, you'd be jockey shifting a rigid frame death trap through a field of potholes, hoping that the magneto sparks and your organs remain inside your body. Let's get some gratitude up in here and let's get into it. There was a time when engines weren't machined. They were crafted like a middle school art project. Early motorcycle engines were built using sand-cast molds that varied from unit to unit with an egregious margin for error. Cylinder walls were not uniform. Combustion chambers weren't symmetrical. Cooling fins weren't engineered for optimum heat dispersion. They were whittled by the hand of a guy with a glass eye and a cigar sticking out of his mouth. Pre-war motorcycles ran remarkably loose tolerances, not as an intentional design feature, but because precision manufacturing literally didn't exist. Pistons rattled in their cylinders, rings leaked, oil consumption was an expected reality, not a problem. If you describe these bikes to a pretentious hipster, he would say that they have character and personality. Yeah, they had bad personalities. Some engines ran crazy hot. Some knocked like boots of 2 men at the Sturgis campground. Some refused to start if it was cold, humid, or Tuesday. But now, things are different. We are infinitely grateful to all the nerds out there who put in those man hours to make motorcycles so good. Today, cylinder bores are machined to micron levels. Heads are CFD modeled for optimized airflow. Engine cases are pressure cast in controlled environments. Camshafts aren't born of a blacksmith's hammer and anvil. They're born digitally with microscopic precision. Modern bikes rev to 12,000, 14,000, or even 16,000 RPM because nothing touches or scrapes that shouldn't. Metal doesn't fatigue from vibration because components are true and aligned. Oil doesn't disappear through porous casting. Your bike runs the same day in and day out because of modern engineering. You don't notice precision casting. It's not a selling point on a bike's product page because it's completely ubiquitous nowadays. But it eliminates countless problems that you would otherwise have been forced to contend with back in the 40s. So let's give a little bit of a shout out to precision engineering. So most modern motorcycles use chains to transmit power from the engine to the rear wheel. Remember your chain, the thing that your manual says you need to clean, inspect, and lubricate every 500 miles, yet you probably haven't even glanced at it since your last oil change 2,000 miles ago. Don't worry, I do the same thing. I'm not really focused about my chain at all. That's because we live in a nice, modern, civilized society, and something as simple as your chain has been improved and iterated upon over the last century to now be basically idiot-proof. But that was not the case in the early 20th century. People maybe had less than a 5th grade education, but they were no dummies. Do not mistake their ignorance for stupidity. Very different things. At least when it came to mechanical neglect. All of the social issues and all that stuff notwithstanding, don't think about that, because back in the day, if you wanted your bike to actually work, you had to know it inside and out. And you definitely couldn't neglect your chain. Motorcycles used to run raw metal-on-metal roller chains with zero sealing surfaces. Dust and grit wedged inside the links and wore them down like sandpaper. Lubrication was primitive, and any rain stripped it away instantly. Riders had to stop routinely to adjust slack, remove dirt, and re-lube everything like a Victorian-era peasant child maintaining the machinery at the weapons factory. Their little hands just perfect for all those little nooks and crannies that the grease can get into. Sprockets wore into jagged saw blades in just a couple thousand miles. If you ignored your chain, it would just eject itself from the chat, maybe taking a chunk of your leg meat along with it. By the 70s, O-ring chains came into fashion, and suddenly, lubrication stayed inside where it belonged, so rollers themselves wouldn't grind into glitter. Sprockets started lasting longer than a single tank of fuel, and then X-ring chains evolved the idea even further, cutting drag while sealing better under heat and load. Listen, something Big Motorcycle doesn't want to tell you is that today, modern chains can go 20,000 miles with basic attention and probably with no attention at all, and that's something that was completely unthinkable as recently as the 50s. Modern chains are epic. They're goated, and there's not much more to it than that. Moving on. Right, so if chains were the unsung heroes, let's talk about motorcycle tires next. Motorcycle tires used to be just downright dangerous. Remember the infamous Janus death wobble incident? I know it was long gone history by now, but think back to that. Now imagine that happening to every motorcycle seemingly at random all the damn time. Tires were absolutely terrible, and that was a major factor in that. They were made of crude rubber blends, cotton cord, instead of steel belting, with narrow tread and tread patterns that seemed to be designed by people who had never seen water before. Bias ply construction heated unevenly, sidewalls flexed and squirmed, and wet weather grip was non-existent. Whether you were racing or daily riding a motorcycle on ancient rubber required a lot of skill, fearlessness, and a little bit of blind optimism. In the 30s, road racers would slide through every corner because the tires literally couldn't hold. That's how flat tracking was invented. Bikes drifted like these flat trackers regardless of what surface they were riding on. To lean aggressively was to play roulette with fate. I'm not sure who would disagree, but we've always said just how hardcore OG racers were, and they really were. It's kind of unbelievable. Pushing the limits on a machine with antiquated tires was really dancing with the devil. If you look back at those old photos and videos, guys doing hair scrambles on basically just like fat UJM bikes, or the guys racing the tall bar, big 500-pound beasts on these kind of tires, it's nuts. But fast forward to today, and tires are on a completely different planet. You've got multi-compound tread that gives you soft edges for grip during cornering and durable centers for touring longevity. Silica fillers maintain pliability in colder temperatures. Radial structures distribute all that load evenly, resisting deformation. And steel belts eliminate wobble under high speeds. You can ride in the rain, you can drag knee on your commute, you can launch a 200 horsepower leader bike without instantly dying. Modern tires are lab-grown black magic that has made every facet of motorcycling better, safer, and more fun. Let's give a shout out to tires, please. All right, boys, let's take a second to talk about our sponsor, DJI. One of the biggest differences you'll notice with the DJI Osmo 360 is how insanely good it is in low light. Most action cameras completely fall apart at night. You point them at a dark road and everything looks like it was filmed on a Nokia flip phone. But the Osmo 360 has an impressive 1-inch 360-degree imaging square sensor, and that changes everything. You can hit up a night ride, roll through the city, or carve some sunset sweepers, and the camera actually keeps the detail. Street lights, brake lights, neon signs are all clean. And because it's capturing a full 360 degrees, you get the entire environment. It makes night riding look cinematic with zero extra effort. The accessory ecosystem is another huge advantage for the DJI Osmo. DJI has mounts for everything: magnetic quick releases, helmet mounts, bar clamps, selfie sticks, plus seamless audio with the DJI Mic Mini. Whatever crazy mounting idea you cook up for the bike, there's already a DJI accessory for it. And since they all swap instantly, you can jump from a handlebar shot to a tail section to a helmet cam in seconds without dealing with adapters or multiple camera rigs. Workflow stays painless too. You shoot, you drop the footage into the DJI app, and the 360 reframing tools do the heavy lifting, even finding key moments automatically. Battery life and internal storage hold up, so you're covered if you forget an SD card or stay out a little longer than you planned. If you want your motorcycle content to look incredible day or night, check out the DJI Osmo 360 using the link below. Go make some memories. Now let's get back to the video. Electricity! A strange and confusing force that not many of us understand. I certainly don't. It's just like magic going between wires, I guess. It used to be cantankerous, confusing, and just basically cryptic. I'm just sitting here imagining some big prototype machine from Nikola Tesla shooting sparks from the 12-foot tall coils just to power a toaster. Motorcycles were not immune to these devilish electronic systems. Magneto ignition was inconsistent, voltage fluctuated with RPM, you rev up your little roadster a little too high and you could explode your headlight like a firework. Yeah, never thought that would be an issue, did you? You just ride your damn modern motorcycle nowadays. You don't think about any of this stuff. Riders would kickstart their bikes over and over again while swearing at God and Thomas Edison alike. Lights dimmed, flickered, or died routinely. Horns croaked in desperation. Batteries boiled over. If you rode in the rain and your tires didn't kill you, the electric shock would. Riding at night required blind faith, but now permanent magnetic alternators produce steady power. Regulators control voltage with precision. LEDs sip energy and never burn out. Engines are powered by ECUs using sensors, fuel maps, and electronically controlled ignition to ensure performance is predictable. The difference is astronomical. A modern middleweight bike has more computing power managing its fueling than Apollo had landing on the moon. Your bike puts out enough juice to charge the battery, your phone, some GoPro batteries, and even an electronic personal companionship device. It's a whole new world we're living in. You don't thank your stator when your dash lights up, but if it failed, you would be knowing what it was like to ride in the 40s. Now listen, unless you drive a Subaru, then you're probably thinking about head gaskets every waking moment of your life, or perhaps thinking about your wonderful lesbian wife. But at one point, every type of gasket on your motorcycle engine was awful. Engines relied on cork, paper, and asbestos to seal the mating surfaces. That's insane. Cases didn't mate flush. The machining surfaces had the texture of a popcorn ceiling. Hot oil seeped through gaps ranging from microscopic to macroscopic. That's how bad gaskets were back in the day. The gaps were macroscopic. You would never pull that adjective out when talking about a motorcycle from the 21st century. Bikes used to always leak, not just certain models, not when they got old or neglected, literally always. A motorcycle straight from the dealership left oil spots on the ground. It was normal, it was expected, kind of like Harley guys say, "My bike doesn't leak, it marks its territory." But today, there are multi-layer composite gaskets combined with precision surface finishing, robotic milling, and anaerobic case sealant. Engines stay dry for decades, and if it leaks, it's probably because it's European, and that's a whole other issue. Oil remains where it belongs. You don't smell like 10W50 after you ride, stain your garage floor, or ride with a film of oil mist on your pant leg. Do not take dryness for granted. And since we're on the topic of oil, old oil sucked. Straight weight 30W turned thick as molasses in winter and thin as water in the summer. And look, I'm not saying that gay weight would be any better, but straight weight was phased out for a reason, and we do not have the liberals to thank for that. The woke mob did not come for the straight weight. Engines used to run dry on startup due to poor circulation. Bearings wore, pistons seized, carbon formed a thick crust in all the engine internals. You used to have to decarbonize your engine, scraping pistons with tools like you're at a biannual dentist visit. Synthetic oil changed everything. Multi-weight oil flows instantly at startup. Additives bond to metal surfaces, reducing wear at the most minute contact points. And detergents suspend carbon instead of letting it bake onto valves. Viscosity modifiers maintain protection across seasons. Modern oil doesn't just lubricate, it cleans, cools, and protects. And that's why we trust Motul as the #1 source for motorcycle oil here at Yammie. They're kind enough to support our world-class, one-of-a-kind podcast called Redline Flatline, where we discuss the most in-depth motorcycle topics. Thanks, Motul. I love you. A modern Gixxer screaming well past 10,000 RPM and lasting 75,000 miles without an engine rebuild is only possible because of modern oil. Yes, Japanese build quality, reliability, Suzuki people love their bikes. It's the oil, folks. It's the oil, it's the gaskets, it's all the other stuff. Old school riders changed their oil like they made bowel movements, a couple of times a week at best. That plain meat and potatoes diet can really block you up if you're neglecting your fiber intake. Did you eat a vegetable today? Be honest. Be honest with me. Early engines vibrated so badly, if you took your girlfriend for a ride, she'd do the dishes for a month to pay you back, if you know what I'm saying. They shook and rattled so badly, bolts would back themselves out mid-ride, parts would just fall off like a molting tarantula. Looking into the rearview mirror, your reality would be blurred like a Dali painting. Riders would literally develop nerve damage as a result. A day on a rigid frame thumper was like riding a mechanical bull with an endless supply of smelling salts. That is because these engines were not balanced. There is primary imbalance, secondary harmonics, uncontrolled reciprocating mass. Pistons and connecting rods don't move in perfect symmetry, so without counterweighting, an engine literally shakes itself apart. Only by the late 60s did manufacturers begin dynamically balancing cranks, using counterweights sized to fractional gram tolerances. Modern singles use balance shafts spinning opposite the crank rotations to cancel out those primary vibrations. Twins are able to use 270-degree firing orders without rattling your teeth out like old V-twins would. Inline 4 spin in a smooth, perfect balance because the rotating mass is tuned like a symphony. Why do you think Yamaha's called the tuning fork company? Harmonics, baby. It's pretty obvious when a bike is highly vibrational, but what many riders might not realize is that is the natural state of a combustion engine. It wants to shake itself apart. Smoothness is not inherent. It's the result of physics and clever engineering. Modern bikes are a miracle, so I say you go out to the garage right now and kiss your sweet motorcycle a goodnight kiss, because it's the culmination of 120 years of suffering, refinement, and mechanical victories. Manufacturing evolved into a science instead of witchcraft. Safety and performance skyrocketed, while bikes also became way easier to own and live with and ride. We truly are living in the future, and sometimes it feels like it sucks with EVs and emissions and all that stuff. But if you look back at the motorcycles of the past, you realize it could be a whole heck of a lot worse. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video today. I truly do appreciate it. I'll catch you in the next one. See you later. Fact: NASA's former system engineer, Lonnie Johnson, invented the Super Soak water gun. Lonnie Johnson is also credited with inventing the stealth bomber. Do with that knowledge whatever you want. Goodbye.